left-hand side, our friend Edgar, challenging Austin Collins. Both players on an absolute tear this year. You see numbers 10 and 3, respectively, on the SCG leaderboard.
What was Austin doodling there?
I don't know. I would love to take a look. Austin going to go ahead and lead off with the Serum Visions. Austin with actual white-bordered lands.
So the white-bordered basics I understand because it makes things easier for fetching.
Right. Until they made the unstable basics, those were actually my basics of choice because I appreciated them for that reason. Presently, I'm using unstables.
Me too.
Edgar with the classic Amulet Titan open of... Uh-oh. There's a bounce land. It's going to untap a bunch of times. Does he have he has the Azusa. Here's the bounce land some more.
How much mana is this?
It's a lot. And if he has Primeval Titan, this game's over. This is it. This is the game's over. Edgar's going to go ahead. He's going to get... No, wait. He's playing it safe? Oh, because of the thing in the ice. He doesn't want to just jam into it. This is correct.
The game is still over, though, right?
It's essentially over. He's going to get second Primeval Titan. I thought he was just going to jam with Slayer's Stronghold. This is a very convoluted combo, which I'm not going to describe all the pieces of right now. Essentially, both these Titans have haste. You're going to get 4 triggers. You're going to make copies of all this. Austin says, I have also seen enough. I'm going to pick up these cards. Don't even explain it to me, Edgar. I trust that you win.
Take a minute for me to get sideboards.
Wow. So,
turn 2 kill.
Turn 2 kill. We have commentated on a lot of Amulet Titan matchups, and we have said that often on camera, when it fails spectacularly, and the deck doesn't look that impressive.
Right.
What we've also said is it has a turn 2 kill, which isn't really all that unreasonable.
Look at Edgar, too. He's just like another day in the office.
Yep.
No big deal.
This is what my deck does. This is why I register this deck in tournaments. And look, the buzz is starting to build around Amulet Titan, and you see something like that happen, and you understand exactly why this deck has access to some of the most broken opens in all of Modern, in addition to just a solid long game. Austin's like, I'll play a cantrip, I'll play my 2-mana threat. Edgar's like, that's cute, you're dead.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah, people were complaining about is it Phoenix and with the consistency that it attacks for like 9 on turn 3 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, how much was it?
I think that does 36.
Yeah?
Is the output on that. 32.
32. Okay.
32, yeah. Yep, 2 activations of the Slayer Stronghold and 2 activations of Sunhome.
1 Sunhome?
I think you can do it twice with 4 triggers and double Amulet. You get Vesiva, Gemstone Mine, the...
Oh, yeah, because it's 2 Titans.
Right.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and you just spread it across.
Yeah, that's sick. Okay.
Yep. So that was 32 damage, and 4 of it was soaked up by that thing in the ice. So I guess technically 28 damage only on turn 2.
Yeah, not bad.
You can definitely go bigger than that. Like, you can do more damage output. It's just ridiculous when this deck breaks, how hard it breaks. And it's funny, too, because you end that turn with, like, all the resources in the world at the same time.
Even if your opponent has fog or whatever, you know?
Well, we are finally ready to go ahead and take a look at our sideboards here. We'll start with Edgar's deck. Over on the left, you see 3 Path to Exiles, trimming that number a little bit. Previously, I'd played 4. 2 Negates, 2 Engineered Explosive, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Ramonap Excavator, 1 Pact of Negation, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Ghost Quarter, that's now in the sideboard, 1 Chameleon Colossus, and 1 Celestial Purge, maybe filling in for one of those Path to Exiles this week.
Yeah, and I think that is more of a concession to Arclight Phoenix, where it both Exiles Phoenix is good against the Golgari decks, but also tags Pyromancer Ascension.
Right, and can clean up any weirdos that might come in and out of the sideboard as well. All of them are red, so if you have to play a long game, that's going to be valuable to have access to. I should note that if you followed us here on the SCG Tour, you know these Amulet Titan players change their deck on a week-to-week basis. This week is no different. Main deck copies of Hivemind this week for the Amulet Titan deck. 2 copies there. So that is a big shift, and it's one that changes a lot of matchups very dramatically. So if you're wondering where the spice is, it's in the main deck, and it's in the form of 2 copies of Hivemind. Meanwhile, over on Austin Collins' side, we are looking at 1 Abrade, 1 Chandra Torch of Defiance, 2 Beacon Bolt, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Spell Pierce. Here's a big shift for this Is It Phoenix deck. 3 copies of Molten Rain, finally 4 copies of Leyline of the Void in the sideboard. Jerry, 1, what do you think about Molten Rain? 2, what do you like from Austin Collins' sideboard, besides Molten Rain, of course?
Yeah, Molten Rain is A+. I think that everyone is ready for Blood Moon, and I think that is basically what Edgar is sideboarding around at this point, where he's like, okay, the Reclamation Sage is coming in, and Austin's just going to like Stone Rain him, Snapcaster Stone Rain, and that might just be it.
I will tell you, as an Amulet Titan player, it is much harder to beat Molten Rain than Blood Moon.
Right, especially at this point with Edgar still has 4 basic forests, and yeah, you're just prepared for that card.
Can make some concessions in the future, could do things like Spell Pierce if that's the axis you have to fight on. You always have options as the Amulet Titan player. Edgar going to go ahead and lead on Gemstone Mine. Ancient Stirring's going to take a look at the top 5 cards of the deck, choose the best one. In this instance, the best one is Basic Forest.
And you see him picking that over one of the bounce lands.
Right,
So
Fearing Blood Moon.
already scared.
And that just goes to show the changes that Izzet Phoenix players can make on a week-to-week basis. Something like the shift from Blood Moon to Molten Rain as your mana hate of choice seems small, but it has big ripples throughout a lot of matchups.
Right, and Edgar's even like a little bit more prepared with the Celestial Purge too.
Right, very true. Austin doing some cantrippy stuff, as Izzet Phoenix is wont to do. Takes the turn back. Does have a 2-mana threat in the form of Thing in the Ice. Edgar's going to take a draw here. This draw notably slower than the first one. Virtually every draw is.
Right. Yeah, I don't think Austin has to fear the turn 2 kill a second time.
Ask Edgar about percentages of the turn 2 kill. Put it somewhere in the range of 10%, which is still incredibly, incredibly high.
Yeah, you need a very specific set of cards, but there are a lot of redundant pieces in the deck.
Yes.
So, things like Ancient Stirrings can potentially sub in for another Amulet or a Bounce Land, whatever piece you happen to be missing. Summoner's Pact can either be Azusa or Primeval Titan.
Right.
And then you have people like Canister playing things like Serum Visions that can also help set it up.
Yeah, Canister taking the deck in an interesting direction, trying to add some more consistency, some more combo potential, really, to the builds. Edgar not on board yet. When we talked on the podcast, though, he was interested in the idea. Conceded that it merited exploration for sure.
One of the great things about the Amulet Cabal as a whole is the fact that they're always willing to innovate and try
Correct.
new things. There are no sacred cows.
Yeah, and over the course of spending 2 hours with Edgar talking about the deck, you get the sense that he's there to learn. He doesn't have any opinions. He sees it set in stone. He thinks there's always something new for the deck to do, a new way for it to evolve. He doesn't disclose out any sources of information. He listens to everyone who has anything to say about the deck. That's a really, really valuable approach to have here on the SCG Tour.
So Edgar plays out third land and then second Amulet of Vigor to play around Spell Pierce, which Austin ends up having and tagging in Ancient Stirrings, which could potentially be really good because I think if Edgar had a bounce land, it's possible he might have played it on that turn.
Right, and as we know, Edgar chose to take Basic Forest when he did resolve the first Ancient Stirrings. There was a bounce land in that pile that he could have taken. But here is a bounce land. That's going to go ahead, generate a bunch of mana. 4 mana floating. 6 mana spent. Here's Primeval Titan. I think 2 Lightning Bolts in hand for Austin. And a Disdainful Stroke. That's the key piece. Going to go ahead and snap that Primeval Titan off the stack. No searches for Edgar. Key answer to have in that moment.
Still a super scary spot, and Austin has even had 2 of the ways to actually interact.
Yeah?
Because the 2 amulets with the bounce land in Edgar's hand means he's just going to have 7 mana basically on any given turn.
Any turn he wants it. And the 2 amulets on the battlefield means that any Titan is apt to be lethal. If Austin taps low from those 2 bolts, the game could just be over for him.
Yeah, Austin still has some play because he does have the thing in the ice on 1 counter, so
very true.
He can bounce a Titan at some point, but the 2 amulets and a Titan trigger is just going to mean that he's going to be able to replay it whenever he wants.
Yep, and he can get additional copies with things like bouncing Talaria West, using that mana, so it's hard to beat a resolved Titan, even if that Titan isn't actually pressuring you in any way. even immediate answers don't bail you out of the problems that it presents. Here you see Thing in the Ice, but Edgar with an answer at the ready in the form of Path to Exile. And that's going to slow down Austin's clock pretty dramatically. Austin going to be able to go find a basic.
Edgar just has it all.
Looks good on his side right now.
It's whether or not he can actually find a follow-up threat.
Yep, one threat, and this game closes out very quickly. We know he has Bounce Land in hand, 2 other cards. It's a Hive Mind as one of the cards. So if he finds just Pact, he might just win on the spot as well.
Potentially. It's kind of weird, though, because Austin
Can pay for Pact and Negation.
Well, you can pay for Pact and Negation. With Manamorphose, you can also pay for Summoner's Pact.
Good point. Very good point.
But if you Hive Mind and cast Summoner's Pact, then your opponent's mana's tied up, and then that likely means that you have Primeval Titan on the next turn. So
that also means they have to kind of be slow rolling their Manamorphose as well, which is not something that often happens, quite frankly.
I agree.
So interesting to note that if Edgar wants to make blue mana here, it will be at the cost of one of those gemstones. Both sitting on 1 counter presently.
Yeah, if Blood Moon were not a consideration in this matchup, I think that Edgar very easily could have picked up the Simic Growth Chamber instead of the basic Forest off the Ancient Stirrings.
Edgar is going to go ahead and tap and cast a Hive Mind. Hive Mind's a wild one. We talked about Cryptic Command and what it can do in certain matchups. Well, not anymore once Hive Mind's on the battlefield. Austin with a hand. Looks like he's a little Phoenix flooded right now and has to fear death at literally any moment. Edgar has it from so many different directions.
Right, and Austin can't even really chain cantrips because of the Hive Mind.
Right.
I mean, he can. It's just going to end
not a good idea.
Poorly, yeah.
Not a good idea. There you see Hive Mind. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player copies that spell. Each of those players may choose new targets for his or her copy. Obviously, any cantrip, Edgar will also get a copy of it. Works both ways. Oh, we see some more mana. Did Edgar find a Titan here? It's 4 mana floating presently. It's just Azusa. Just Azusa. It's going to go ahead and enter the battlefield. Follow-up of Talaria West. That's going to untap a bunch of times. Bunch of blue floating. That's going to enable a Bounce Land, which will return Talaria West to hand. That could become a Pact, if Edgar so chooses.
Do we have a Storm counter for white mana? We do. Love it.
There is the Transmuted Talaria West. I have a feeling that's going to go ahead and get a Summoner's Pact. Edgar's going to cast it. That's going to put a copy into play on Austin's side, and that is going to do it.
I mean, also likely would have had lethal with just
with
the Titan.
Primeval Titan. Edgar had it all. He had it both ways. A dominant performance from Amulet Titan here. I feel like that's kind of what we've been waiting to see on camera all this time. Time after time, we see Amulet players just not find that last piece, and when the deck fails, it does so spectacularly. It sits there and does nothing.
Right.
There you saw 2 instances of exactly what Amulet Titan is capable of.
And we also saw Austin basically doing what his deck is supposed to do, and the last few rounds have just been Izzet Phoenix dominating. Like, you get to see that happen. And in that game, I mean, Austin had a pretty good setup, and it still was not even close to even, like, dealing Edgar damage, basically.
Austin had the Disdainful Stroke for the Primeval Titan.
He got the Spell Pierce, the setup card.
Had Spell Pierce, basically had it all, and still wasn't able to convert. Pretty impressive stuff from the Amulet side. And if you want to see even more impressive matches throughout the weekend, of course, you can only see them right here on Twitch, where you're presently watching with the assistance of our friends at Cardboard Live. We tell you about our Twitch subscriptions. Take a look at those. Of course, they allow you to go ahead and pick the the quarterfinal matchups once we get to our top 8. Huge benefit there. There's also all kinds of emotes. Jerry, what's your favorite emote?
I don't know.
Come on. I couldn't have given you a softer ball.
Is it supposed to be the game one?
Yes, it's supposed to be the game one.
Fine.
Of course it is. Spam that in the chat right now for me one time. Hit that game emote. One of the huge benefits of being a Twitch subscriber.
Y'all don't have to do that. Don't listen to Brian.
No, you have to do it. I will end this broadcast unless I see that.
Live your
spam.
lives. Do whatever you want.
for only $4.99 a month, or maybe those Amazon Prime Twitch subscriptions you have lying around, you can go ahead and support the best home for live Magic here on the internet, the SCG Tour. Head over to twitch.tv/SCG Tour. I'm assuming you're presently there if you're hearing the sound of my voice. I mean, you guess you could be watching this in the future on YouTube, right? And you're saying, well, how can I see this live next time? There you go, twitch.tv/SCG Tour.
Game changer.
Why don't we take a little break? We're going to have some time shifted Magic. Obviously, that was a fast, and dominant match on the Amulet Titan side.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I was very happy to see Edgar play, of course, perfectly, as we expect from him, but set up his deck very well with the Hive Mind ready to go in that instance. Although, again, Primeval Titan probably would have gotten the job done, too.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
you can only play so many Titans, though.
That's true. After a while, you're looking for different win conditions. We're going to take a quick 3-minute break. We're going to set up that time-shifted match, and we'll be back. Don't go anywhere.